Wondering what's going wrong and why you're not making more money? Well, watch on. As a business accountant, my team and I spend all day long helping small business owners on their journey. And there's some certain common themes with small businesses. The first one, of course, is that no one feels like they make enough money and they work all the hours, and I absolutely can understand that viewpoint. But what we have seen is there's some real practical ways to help move that needle towards where you want to be. And that's really what I want to talk about in this video. But before we get going, if you do enjoy these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button and the bell so you get notified whenever we release more videos just like this one. So then, these strategies are quite wide ranging, but I want to give you some practical stuff that you can go away from the video thinking, yeah, okay, I need to look, even if you just pick one of them, you can take it away from the video and think, I'm gonna go and do this. So if I was looking at a business and I was thinking, well, why is it not making any money? The first thing I want to do is probably the most difficult thing, and that is go back to zero. Big think, as I call it. You want to have a big think session and look at it and what's your model? So you could literally take out, I mean, it could be what I call fag packet maths, but it could be like a bit of paper and a pen. These days, it's more likely to be a spreadsheet and a tablet, but you're going to go and have a look and think, well, what happens if I went and did this again from day one? What's actually happening? I'm selling it for this service for X. It's costing me Y to deliver it. How much money do I make at the end of it? Where am I? What people do I need to make this work? And sometimes with a business, particularly as it grows, you see that your model doesn't work. And then the big think is, okay, well, look, certain things have to exist. These costs have to exist to do business. So if this is going to work, what is it I need to do? What needs to change to make this work? Because quite often we think, oh, we're just going to sell more, but that's not often the answer. Quite often it's going to be something else in the model has to change. It could be our pricing. It could literally just be, we cannot afford to provide this quality of service for this money. And people really worry about that one, but that is ultimately sometimes what it comes down to. You've got to make some tough decisions and do that. But sometimes it can be other things in the model. You might come to the decision, your business model just doesn't work. You might think, look, it doesn't work, it doesn't make any money. Well, we see, I'll give you an example, a lot of coffee shops start up and they're like, okay, yeah, like they can see how many teas and coffees they could sell during a day, and that seems all right. But then when you factor in labor, utilities, the rent, that you have to sell a lot of coffee at a certain price to make the business model work. So it's looking at those things and taking it back to zero and thinking, if it's an existing business, if I scrapped this and started again tomorrow, what would I do? And if the answer is not what you're doing now, I think the takeaway from that is to look at, okay, what do I need to do and how quickly? How quickly can I move that needle towards where we need to get back to? And they can be tough choices, and sometimes they can be really difficult operational decisions. Like even if you decide it's a price rise, you've got to write the comms, you've got to change the back end of your systems, you've got to do loads of things to get that done. But what's the alternative? You're going to go out of business. And I think if we look at the main reasons why small businesses fail that we see, it's normally because of this issue that the model has ceased to work. All their costs have risen and they haven't reacted in some way as a business grows. And it's why you see a lot of businesses that as they grow actually make less money than they did when they were smaller, is because they don't keep an eye on these things. So on that one, big think, compare what you're doing now to what you think it should look like in an ideal world. And then you're going to look at, okay, either how do we make these numbers work and get back to where we need to be, or how do we change the model yesterday to get it to work, and what have we got to do? And as I say, it's not an easy thing, but it's a really cool session. So just action point, book some time in your diary and go and have a look at those things. Now, secondly, knowing that model and knowing that plan, we're going to pick some numbers. So we're going to go and have a look. And some people refer to them as KPIs, but they could just call them targets if you like. We want some numbers. We have to hit these numbers to make this work. So whether you've decided that actually you have to make a certain amount of gross profit, so that's the profit after the costs have come off to deliver the service. So if you're selling a chair, you might go, okay, I'm going to sell, here's all the materials. So we've got sales, less all of the materials for the chair, less the labor it costs for our team to make the chair, less the delivery, and you're left with gross profit. And you might be tracking that number, or most commonly you'll track it as a percentage. So you'll divide that number by your sales figure. It gives you a percentage. They call that gross profit margin. And you're going to track that. And it might be that you need to improve that, or it has to be a certain percent to generate enough to make the rest of the business work, to be able to pay your rent. So if we're using the coffee shop example, you might have the cost of the actual coffee itself and everything else that goes with that, the labor of the team that are delivering the coffee to the tables, and that's your gross profit. You're going to need to know that that's going to be X figure, or at least a percentage, to be able to pay your rent and all your telephone bills and insurance and all the other things that go with it. So whatever you set, and I think there's probably 3 to 7 numbers that are really big in this, you just need to keep an idea of. But you could start with 3 if you like. If you needed to just some thoughts, start with 3. Start with sales, start with gross profit, start with net profit. They're 3 good ones. But you can make your own up. It could be, and it can be more actionable. They don't have to be numbers like that. They could be things like, actually, if you're looking to improve your sales, how many sales calls are we doing? How many leads have we got? But you're going to track those and decide on what they are. And then set yourself those targets, communicate them. If it's just you, communicate them to yourself, but have them on boards, have them everywhere. It doesn't matter how you do it, but just keep them top of mind and make sure that you're reviewing them regularly. Which for me then is the third strategy, and that's making sure you're measuring and reviewing. Now, shock horror, accountant thinks that you need good figures, but you need regular figures, whether that's monthly, quarterly. I mean, if you've never looked at it before, even quarterly is going to feel transformational for you, I'm sure. But ultimately, if you're really got quite a high growth, changeable business and you really want to be on top of it, monthly is good. It might come down to cost. If either you need some help with that, you might find that it's expensive for you versus what the result you're going to get out of it is. Or if you've got some of these products like a Xero or a QuickBooks and you're doing your own figures, you've got access to some relatively meaningful figures in there. It's like everything. How good those figures are and how meaningful they are is going to depend on the quality of what's gone into them, and it's making sure that that's good. But you have got access. So even if that's what you do, your action point for this is to go away and make sure you can access regular numbers and at least look at them. That's going to really help. And then you can compare what you've done versus what you know you need to be doing to make this work. And the action point for that is always stick a time in your calendar. Do not move it. That's going to be your finance day. You're going to sit and you're going to look at these things. And just to begin with, just look and think about it. And I think we've done a few videos on how you can build on these habits, but that's going to be your main one, is having a day in the diary, whether it's once a month, you're just going to sit, look at what we actually did do and what you knew based on your big think session you should be doing. And then once you've got those 3 things, you can start making some decisions and going to the pro level and thinking, well, do I need assistance here? Like, I'll give you an example. We deal with a lot of, say, online businesses where they're actually selling stuff. We do, weirdly, like a lot of clothes retailers, beauty brands, like a lot of people who sell physical products, dog food manufacturers, like it can be a lot of people. And the figures, if you're bookkeeping it yourself and you're not taking into account stock, and we've done another video on why stock's important, but I'm just going to throw that out there as a prime example. If you're not adjusting for stock every month, the figures that you're looking at are not going to mean anything. They're not going to mean anything. And your gross profit percentage, which we said was a really important figure, if not one of the most important figures in the business, is going to mean absolutely nothing without that adjustment. And you might find, look, I'm just going to need help. And if that's the case, seek professional help. Seek an uncle or an aunt who knows what they're doing and what they're looking at. There's lots of options outside of accountants. Obviously, we'd love you to use accountants, but and just get some support, and then at least you get some insight into what those figures mean and how they might be able to translate what they actually mean. Because again, we spend years training to look at this. You might not, but I just want to get you in the habit of actually looking at them at the beginning and understanding what it actually needed to look like. And that's why I like the big think session, because when you started the business, I'd always encourage people to do that, like fag packet it out. You want to be able to explain the business model on a one pager. If that's what we have in, that's what we make. We need to sell that many of them to make enough money to pay all of our overheads and pay yourself. And if that's where you started, as the business grows, it can often lose its way. So make sure that you're bringing it back to that concept all the time of what did we say we were going to do? What was the model? And where are we now? So there we go, some practical things to do. And as you can see, there's a lot of stick it in your diary and look at these things and go from there. If you have any success with any of this stuff, make sure to stick it in the comments below. I'd love to read it and just see what your experiences are. Please do share it with anybody else who needs to know this info. And I'll see you in the next one.